Hello, guys. My name is Luis Salinas, and I will be presenting. My presentation will be on the SAM model. This very first image here kind of gives you a bird's eye view of the SAM model and how it is sort of designed, or how it applies its instruction, or its instructional design, I should say. Specifically, this is more of what they would consider SAM Model 2, and I'll get into that in just a moment. So a little bit of history regarding the SAM model. The founder of SAM model is Dr. Michael Allen. He is also the creator of what's called Allen Interactions, and it's a pretty successful company now that really pushes this model for various organizations. The model itself was invented in 2012, and often Dr. Allen is referred to as the godfather of e-learning just because of his history in the field itself. A lot of his work really begins in the 1970s, so he's kind of dubbed this uh, nickname, I guess, as the godfather of e-learning. Little background is that he is a pioneer and leader in this type of multimedia learning tool and application. And as mentioned earlier, he is also the creator of the Allen Interactions, which is a very useful website to gain more knowledge regarding this model. The purpose of this model is to be meaningful, motivational, and memorable. And in some ways, when Dr. Allen developed this model, he did so in the approach of trying to replace another model known as ADDIE. I think possibly one of our classmates will have this model here. So what exactly is SAM? SAM is Successive Approximation Model, SAM. It's a model that's designed to be efficient and quick, agile development model. It's really its strengths really come in that it tries to create effective and efficient ways to build training tools, but also for projects. Some people have even described this as a project-based model. The emphasis of SAM is really taking more of a scope and sequence approach to any type of training or any type of project. It's breaking those into small, manageable steps that become quite effective. Outcomes for the SAM model include the heavy collaboration, not only with the team, but also the clients. The clients obviously could be a customer of some kind, or an organization like a profit or nonprofit organization, or even education. So clients can be students, or instruction teams. Really, again, the outcomes really are heavily based on this collaboration, and tries to hint at or achieve the goal of trying to get the client's expectation. There are two models to SAM: SAM 1 and SAM 2. SAM 1 is much more basic, whereas SAM 2 is much more extensive with more complicated projects. In SAM 1, you have three cyclical phases. That is the analyze, design, and development phase. SAM 1 is much more effective to use with smaller projects. Again, its advantage is really the speed and efficiency that it could produce for any type of organization. You begin with the analyze phase, you then go to the design and the development phase. And again, it's a cyclical design model that allows you to be in these three areas at any given time. In SAM 2, you have three different, phases, if you will. The first one is the preparation phase. This is also known as the phase where one or a group or a team might gather information, background. This also is a narrowing phase, helps the team to try to focus on what the specific needs are, what the expectations might be, those outcomes. It's really a brainstorming phase, if anything. The iterative design phase is much more about the additional design. It is focusing on the project at hand. It's really trying to assess what the timeline might be, Also, in this phase, you might actually start to consider things like what's some of the risk factors, what is some of the timeline for this, and you begin to really consider other variations of the process itself. You also will develop what's known as a prototype. I know in a video when they were talking about the SAM, they used the creators of Mario, the company Nintendo. They developed a prototype which was a game user face where they had something to work with, and it was off that prototype that they began to actually improve that. So in this phase, that's really where you get that kind of idea. You got to have something tangible in order to improve on it. So it's a very important phase. Next, you have the iterative development phase. This happens in 4 phases. So it's a phase within a phase if you think about it. The first phase is what's known as design proof, which is testing the viability of the prototype. It tends to be more functional than the prototype. Then you have what's known as the alpha phase. This is really the version of the instructional application. You then move to the beta phase. The beta phase is really basing a lot from that alpha stage. One of the things you'll notice, and I think I'll cover here in just a moment, is that part of the benefit or the necessity or more of a requirement is the feedback one receives in these projects. So the beta phase really is basing a lot of its application and again adjustments from that feedback. And then you go into what's known as the gold phase. The gold phase is the feedback coming from the beta phase in that particular order. So again, 3 different phases: the preparation, iterative design phase, iterative development phase. Now there are some limitations, but again, just to reiterate, the use for this is to be quite effective. It is to build quality training and instructional tools that meet those specific outcomes for those specific clients. The advantage of the SAM model is really the explicit focus it receives. In many ways, after looking at this, it almost seems that you can kind of say that the SAM model, one of its advantages is really the custom fit. You can develop this to be custom to the specific needs of the client. SAM model is effective also when you have a collective, what's called a same method working. So in other words, if many of the people in the team are working in the same way, this is another advantage that the SAM model applies in. Of course, there are some limitations, and that is that the SAM model does not apply to all organizations. Even though it is, customizable, it is really heavily requiring, feedback. So that's really its limitation. If you can't get rapid feedback or have the flexibility to find the process of finding the feedback, the SAM model really is not a model you want to utilize. So that is one of the things in researching the SAM model that I realized and that people were saying. So without rapid feedback, this model will often prove to be time consuming, and you may want to actually use a different model for that particular purpose. And that is it. Thank you guys. I appreciate listening to me. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, reach out to me, whether it's on Blackboard or any other way. Appreciate it.